6 years in the Marine Corps was all about, is how I was going to benefit that organization, how I was going to benefit the Marine Corps, how I was going to benefit my country, and how I was going to be a better Marine.
Jacob here, back at you with another video about why he switched from the Marines to the Air Force, how his experience in the Marines was, and then the pros and the cons of the Air Force and the Marine. If you don't know me, my name is Jacob Kiter. I wanted to go to the military whenever I was like 14. Ended up going straight into the Air Force. So whenever I turned 15 or 16, I think it was 16, it was the beginning of my junior year of high school. I switched to an online school, did all my classes, just knocked through them real quick. Worked 3 jobs until I turned 17. So in between like the beginning of my junior year and the beginning of what would have been my senior year, I was just kicking ass, doing like working jobs. I worked at the pool, grocery store, Pizza Hut, and basically just kept busy until I could turn 17. And then I went into the Air Force recruiter's office, signed everything the day that I turned 17, got my MEPS date, and went to the Air Force. So that's how I got my feet into the boots of the military. And whenever I went into the Air Force, coming in at such a young age especially, it's been really cool so far. I mean, yeah, I've gotten the opportunity to travel a lot. I live in Las Vegas now. I'm from Kansas. There's been a lot of things that I've gotten out of the military that I wouldn't have if I would have stayed in Kansas. And then again, there's always a lot of things I could have done in Kansas. But anyways, the Air Force so far, you're gonna have your bad parts, you're gonna have your good parts. I joined the Air Force because everybody was like, yo, go to the Air Force. You get better houses, you can play Xbox in the Air Force, you can do this in the Air Force. You're gonna be able to go to sleep with a smile on your face at night. And at that point, I was just like, okay, yeah, seems nice. Would you like to tell everybody on the camera who you are and where you came from?
Yeah, my name's Jake, Jake Green. The Marine Corps absolutely is centered on competitiveness, and that's what makes Marines who they are, Marines. But as far as my background goes, I'm 28 years old. I joined the military 10 years ago, so similar to what Kiter did. You know, I was fresh out of high school, didn't even have my senior year of high school because I wanted to join the military so bad. And so I ended up turning 18 and then going to Marine Corps boot camp. And the reason why I would say that I wanted to join the military in general was kind of similar as well to Kiter. Is, you know, I wanted to get out, explore things, and have those opportunities, but I just always knew that the military was going to be in my future, and that was what I wanted to do with and pursue in my life. But that's kind of my background. Just as far as why I wanted to join the Marine Corps is back when I was going through and trying to figure things out, so probably my sophomore year of high school, I was able to go and meet with the Marine recruiters. And when I went into their office, I went in and asked a question and asked them, you know, what benefits am I gonna get from joining the Marine Corps? And the recruiter, you know, he stopped me and said, well, what are you gonna do for us? And so for that reason and that mentality of, instead of it being about me, what I was gonna be able to offer, that really struck home, and that was something that really stood out to me. On top of the uniforms, you know, the discipline, just the war-fighting mindset and centered nature is, I just knew that I was gonna go in to benefit instead of it being about me. And that's what my experience, my 6 years in the Marine Corps was all about, is how I was gonna benefit that organization, how I was gonna benefit the Marine Corps, how I was gonna benefit my country, and how I was gonna be a better Marine. And that's basically the building blocks of what set me up. Obviously I know Kiter because I work with him now. I got out of the Marines, was working a civilian job for a little bit, and missed that military lifestyle, that military mindset. And so I ended up going ahead and and joining the Air Force. And it's definitely been a huge switch, a lot different for me. But I guess that's what we can kind of talk about as far as pros and cons of the Marine Corps versus the pros and cons of the Air Force.
Yeah, so you switched to the Air Force about 3 years ago, right?
Correct.
So what would you say are like the pros of the Air Force that you didn't have in the Marines that...
All right, so as far as the Air Force goes, and you can back me up on this because obviously you're in the Air Force. So I would say the Air Force, the quality of life is pretty good. Services that they have as far as facilities, the bases, the base locations, just the diverse nature of being able to be, you know, in many different places and all over the world. That's a really good positive of the Air Force. On top of that, and for me particularly, you know, I'm married, I have a son, so just the fact that it's a very family-friendly atmosphere is something that I find really good about the Air Force. Is it accommodates, you know, if I have to go and take my son to a medical appointment, or if I want to go to one of my wife's, you know, medical appointments as well, I can work it out and get the day off and not have to worry so much about getting backlash for it. So that's a really good thing that I feel about the Air Force. The Air Force, there's definitely kind of that attitude of kind of getting stuck in a lull, you know, like we talked about, that competitive nature, especially the Marine Corps. You're constantly trying to get better. You're trying to do things differently, make improvements to your, you know, physical fitness and stuff like that. In the Air Force, excuse me, you don't really necessarily have that so much. The standards are a little bit lower, so you don't have that drive to try and better yourself or be better or improve those around you. And although you do in the Air Force, you know, you're trying to, you know, better your career and everything like that, but just the way in which you do it, it definitely kind of creates just a really low,
submissive,
yeah.
So I'd say submissive, passive aggressive environment, opposed to the Marines. Wouldn't they be a lot more like direct with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like the Marine Corps is a lot more direct. You know, if you have a problem, you're gonna go and you're gonna get it addressed. Or if you're the problem, you're gonna be addressed.
Know about it.
Yeah, you're gonna know about it.
So coming from the Marines, what would you say is a pro of the Marine that the Air Force doesn't have now? Let's do the pros and cons of the Marines here.
Sure, so the Marine Corps, the pros, you know, I've already kind of gone over it a little bit, but just the fact that you are driven, everyone in the Marine Corps, you know, has that mentality of you know, directly having impacts on the battlefield or of supporting those that go ahead and do. And there were times where, you know, non-infantry guys, so pogues, they would come and they would join me, or they would go out and we would use them, and they kind of had a pretty good idea of how to go and be on a range, how they would fire, how they would maneuver, and how they would be a basic infantryman. So that was something that was really cool for me, is knowing that, you know, for the most part, I could take a Marine and integrate him into my infantry squad. So that was awesome. Another benefit I feel of the Marines is just that sense of pride in knowing that who you are, you know what your purpose is, and you're always striving to make improvements, and you're making those sacrifices, and you have a history of those that have gone before you that have made those ultimate sacrifices and have won battles, and it's something that's pretty awesome.
Cool. So now, like, let's get into the dirt about the Marines. So let's talk about how, like, what like Marine duty consists of, like just all the bad things about the Marines that you wouldn't deal with in the Air Force.
Yeah, so the Air Force, or excuse me, the Marine Corps, there are definitely their cons. Just the fact that the base selection isn't the greatest. You are kind of stuck in really crappy locations, and you don't always have the best resources available, in that, you know, the gear that you have, the materials that you have, the funding that you have is pretty low. The Marines are the lowest funded branch of the military. They trickle off from the Navy, you know, as far as what they get. So Sometimes it can be a little demoralizing that you don't have the best things, but it also drives you to
be the best.
But just the base selection isn't the greatest, or locations, though. You can go a lot of different places, but you're not going to be in the Air Force, where you can be living in Florida, you can be living in Washington, you can be living in South Carolina, just all over the place. So that's kind of bad. I would also say just the bases themselves, a lot of the structures and the buildings and stuff like that is really old, and the living conditions aren't the greatest. So if you're going to be staying in the dorms in the Air Force, your quality of life is going to be fairly decent, whereas the Marines, a lot of times you don't have a huge dorm room, and sometimes you're bunking up, or you're rooming up with another Marine, and so, and on top of that, you're getting constant inspections, and you constantly have people looking over your shoulder, so it's kind of annoying. Whoever watches this, you guys, it depends on you as an individual. Like, what are you looking for? Because in the Air Force, like, you're gonna go, that you're gonna get a lot of good technical training, you're gonna be skilled at what you do. It's still the military, so you are gonna have that discipline factor, you're gonna have a sense of accomplishment and purpose, even though it isn't necessarily a direct, you're not seeing the direct results of your actions sometimes. There are those good things, whereas with the Marines, just like we talked about, you have that sense of purpose as well. Are you the type of person that wants to go in and be physical, work out every day, that's going to be driven, that's going to want to better yourself, that's going to want to see how you contribute to the overall mission? It really comes down to each and every one of you. But the best way that you can find those answers is through videos like these, through talking to recruiters, and through doing your homework. Don't make a last minute or a hasty decision.
Yeah, so if you guys made it to the end of the video, just wanted to say thanks for watching all the way through. If you have any other questions, just search my channel. I might have made a video about it already. If not, leave a comment. I'll address that. I like to get back to almost every single comment that gets left on my channel. And if you want to see more, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications for the channel. And as far as base selection and everything goes, I'm going to be leaving a like a map of where all the bases are for each branch, probably in a link in the description box below if you want to check that out. But anyways, guys, if you feel like this video could help anybody else, feel free to share it with your friends, your mom, your grandma, whoever. But yeah, that's about it though. So catch you guys in the next video. Take it easy. Thanks for watching.
All right, thanks guys.